Hey guys, so I decided to do my case study on the insubordination failure to change a student's grade. The backstory was Alice Hill, an 11th grade English teacher at Fairville High School, located in a progressive school district, assigned the grade of F to a star basketball player, Tom Benson, who had failed to turn in assigned work. Hill encountered considerable criticism from coaches and other colleagues at school. A request was made by the principal, Jim Martin, for Hill to return to school and to change the grade. Due to stress associated with this event, Hill was unable to do so and arranged for a substitute to cover her classes for 2 days. The principal recommended dismissal based on charges of insubordination for failure to return to change the grade. So the first question that was asked was Alice Hill justified in not returning to change the grade? And I said, I think that Alice Hill was justified in not returning to change the grade. It's obvious that the student athlete earned the grade of an F due to his failure to turn in the assignments. Ms. Hill was not being biased or selective in her choice to fail Tom Benson based on his grades or the fact that he was an athlete. I feel that's important that educators and educational leaders remember that education comes before sports when it comes to student athletes. Another question was, does the principal have sufficient grounds to recommend insubordination? As far as not changing the grade, insubordination is generally viewed as the willful failure or inability to obey a reasonable and valid administrative directive. And Essex says that on page 259. In this case, I do not think that Mr. Martin has sufficient grounds to recommend insubordination because insubordination does not include disagreements with supervisors. And in this case, she obviously disagrees with him, and I also think that he's asking of something pretty unreasonable for her to do. In most cases, administrators are not there to provide grades for students. That's the teacher's job. Did Alice Hill's failure to return constitute insubordination? And I said I didn't think that Alice Hill's failure to return constitutes insubordination. Ms. Hill had begun to encounter criticism at school, not only from her colleagues, but with the request for the change or for the grade to be changed. Insubordination does not involve the inability to and failure to return to work based on fear, intimidation, and stress involving school incidences. And in this case, I feel that Ms. Hill felt intimidated by her principal and was stressed from the criticism of her other colleagues. As principal, would I have taken the position that this principal took? As a former student athlete and as a current teacher coach, I realize that education should be students, coaches, teachers, and administrators' first priority in a school setting. So I would not have taken the same position that this principal took. I would have supported the teacher in her decision to fail Tom Benson if he deserved it, and in this case, I think he did. I think it's important that teachers know that they have the support of their administrators. And then how would the court likely rule in this case? I feel that the courts would rule in favor of Alice Hill. I think that Mr. Martin was being unreasonable with his request of Tim Benson's grade change just because he was a star athlete. If the evidence reveals that the directive or administrative order was biased against the teacher or unreasonable, insubordination charges will be difficult to defend, and the change of grade, I feel, was unreasonable. It is also necessary that administrators document all cases of insubordination, and there's no mention that Mr. Martin made any documentation towards Ms. Hill. So school officials should be knowledgeable of their state statutory definition of insubordination and ensure that cases involving insubordination are well documented. Professional disagreements between superiors and subordinates do not normally constitute insubordination, so I do feel that the courts would rule in favor of Alice Hill and her decision not to change the grade and the fact that nothing that she did constituted insubordination.